The rescue among ruins. The emergency klaxons wailed through the corridors of the derelict Zenthian cruiser. Lieutenant Dominic Foster adjusted his tactical helmet, the oxygen filter wheezing as he navigated through the smoke-filled passageways. His team had scattered throughout the ship, standard salvage protocol after intercepting the distress beacon. "Command, this is Foster. Level 3 secured, moving to the detention block," he reported, his boots crunching over shattered glass and twisted metal. The battle that had ravaged this vessel had been brutal. Plasma scoring marked the walls, and the occasional body of a Zenthian warrior floated in the zero-G pockets where gravity systems had failed. "Copy, Lieutenant. Bioscanners are picking up a faint signature in Detention Cell 7. Probably just another dying Zenthian, but check it out." Dominic didn't respond. After 3 years of salvage operations along the frontier, he'd learned to expect the unexpected. The Zenthians were notorious slavers, their ships often carrying cargo from a dozen different worlds. The detention block doors were half melted, requiring Dominic to use his plasma cutter to force them open. The air inside was thick with coolant, gas, and the metallic scent of alien blood. "Hello?" he called out, switching his helmet lights to maximum. "Earth Coalition forces. Anyone alive in here?" A soft hiss came from the far cell. Dominic approached cautiously, rifle raised. Through the reinforced bars, he could make out a slender figure huddled in the corner. Not Zenthian. Their bulky frames were unmistakable. This was something else. "I'm going to get you out of there," he said, holstering his weapon and working on the cell's lock mechanism. The figure shifted slightly, revealing luminescent markings along pale blue skin. 2 large, silvery eyes reflected his helmet light, pupils contracting to slits. "Can you understand me?" Dominic asked, finally breaking through the lock. The cell door slid open with a groan. The alien rose to its full height, nearly matching Dominic's 6 feet, revealing a feminine form dressed in tattered robes that might once have been elegant. A crown-like ridge of small crystalline formations lined her skull, glimmering despite the grime covering them. "I understand," she said, her voice melodic despite the translator's mechanical edge. "You are human?" "Yes. Lieutenant Dominic Foster, Earth Coalition. This ship is unstable. We need to evacuate immediately." She stepped forward, her movements graceful despite obvious injuries. "I am Nira, of House Thalaxian, first sovereign of the Astral Dominion." Before Dominic could process this information, a royal if he understood her titles correctly, the ship lurched violently. The ceiling above them groaned, support beams buckling. "We need to move, now." Dominic reached for her arm. As debris began falling, Nira lunged forward with unexpected speed. Dominic felt a sharp pain at the junction of his neck and shoulder, just beyond his suit's collar. The alien woman had sunk her teeth into his flesh. "What the?" he gasped, pulling away as the wound burned like fire. Nira's eyes glowed brighter. "Forgive me?" she whispered, a trickle of his blood on her lips. "But I needed to ensure safe passage." The ceiling collapsed then. Dominic instinctively threw himself over her, his tactical shield deploying to protect them both. As darkness fell around them, the bite mark pulsed with an unnatural warmth, spreading throughout his body like a current of electricity. Little did he know that this moment, this bite, would change the fate of 2 civilizations forever. Marked by destiny, the medical bay of Earth Coalition vessel, Dauntless hummed with activity as Dominic sat on the examination table, wincing as the medic cleaned the peculiar wound on his neck. "Never seen anything like this," Dr. Whitaker muttered, scanning the bite mark with a handheld device. "The punctures are deep, but there's some kind of bioluminescent residue in the wounds. It's not causing infection, but it's not healing normally either." Dominic's eyes drifted to the adjacent room where Nira sat surrounded by curious scientists and wary security personnel. Despite her tattered appearance, she maintained a regal posture, answering questions with measured patience. "What's the verdict, Doc? Am I going to sprout tentacles?" Dominic attempted humor, but the ache spreading from the bite made him grimace. "Unknown, but your vitals are stable. Whatever she did, it doesn't appear immediately life-threatening. Dr. Whitaker stepped back. You're cleared for debriefing, but I want daily check-ins. As Dominic buttoned his uniform collar, Commander Jansen entered the medical bay, his expression grim. Foster, a word. The commander gestured to a private corner. Your rescue is causing quite a stir. According to our xenobiologist, she's Thalaxian royalty, a species we've only had distant diplomatic contact with, and she's refusing to speak with anyone but you. Dominic frowned. Sir, I just pulled her from a wreck. She claims otherwise. Jansen's eyes narrowed. She says she claimed you. Before Dominic could respond, the door to Nira's examination room slid open. She emerged, now dressed in simple coalition-issued attire, the medical staff trailing behind her with perplexed expressions. My consort. She addressed Dominic directly, her silvery eyes fixed on him. We must speak privately. Commander. Jansen raised an eyebrow. Consort? Heat rushed to Dominic's face. There's been a misunderstanding. Nira approached, her movements fluid despite the ship's artificial gravity. There is no misunderstanding. The bond is sacred and recognized across the 7 systems. I have marked you as mine. The bite on Dominic's neck pulsed warmly as if responding to her proximity. In the conference room minutes later, Nira explained. The Zalaxian marauders attacked my diplomatic vessel. They intended to sell me to our enemies. When you rescued me, I saw an opportunity. By biting me? Dominic touched his neck. By claiming you through the ancient rite of Thalzamar. Her expression softened. Among my people, to mark another. During a life-debt moment is to forge an unbreakable bond. You are now, by all Thalaxian laws, my chosen consort. Commander Jansen, who had insisted on being present, exhaled sharply. Lieutenant Foster is coalition military, not some alien trophy. Nira's crystalline crown flashed with subtle colors. The bond serves a greater purpose. My enemies within the astral dominion seek to force me into a political marriage. With a consort already claimed, I am protected from their schemes. And your coalition gains unprecedented access to our technology. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Lieutenant Park burst into the room. Commander, unidentified vessels just dropped out of hyperspace. They're hailing us, demanding we surrender the Thalaxian royal and her abductor. Nira's eyes widened. Bounty hunters. The usurpers have found me already. Dominic met her gaze, the reality of his situation sinking in. Whatever this bond meant, they were now bound together by forces beyond simple politics. The bite mark throbbed in rhythm with his accelerating heartbeat. What happens if they capture us? He asked quietly. They will separate us, dissolve our bond forcibly, a process fatal to both parties, and install my cousin Vex on the throne. Nira's voice remained steady, but fear flickered in her eyes. Dominic stood, decision made. Then we don't let them capture us. For the first time since their meeting, Nira smiled, a gesture that transformed her alien features into something hauntingly beautiful. No, my consort, we do not. Flight to the homeworld, approaching Thalaxian space. 3 minutes to atmospheric entry, Dominic announced, his hands dancing across the stolen shuttle's controls. The small vessel shuddered as it pushed beyond its design limits, the engines, whining in protest. Behind him, Nira meditated in silence, her crystalline crown pulsing with soft blue light. Their escape from the bounty hunters had been narrow, a desperate gambit involving a maintenance airlock, a commandeered shuttle, and a blind jump to hyperspace that Commander Jansen would definitely not approve of. The planetary defense grid will scan us, Nira said, eyes still closed. They will detect your human biosignature. Dominic grimaced. Will they shoot us down? No. But the Royal Guard will be cautious. She opened her eyes, now glowing with an inner light. I must prepare you. My homeworld is not like Earth. The atmosphere is denser, gravity lighter, but it is the social dangers you must guard against. The bite mark on Dominic's neck tingled as it often did when she spoke of their bond. Over the past 3 days of their journey, he'd learned more about the Thalzamar ritual, how it created not just a political alliance but a psychic connection that would grow stronger with proximity and time. Already he could sense echoes of her emotions, particularly when they were strong. Right now, beneath her composed exterior, Nira was anxious. "Your people won't accept a human consort," he stated, rather than asked. "The common people might, out of respect for tradition. The royal court," she sighed, "they will challenge the legitimacy of our bond, particularly Baron Zelvarax, your rejected suitor, the most powerful noble after the royal line and commander of our fleet." Nira moved beside him at the controls. "He will be dangerous, but the law is clear. The Thalzamar supersedes all arranged matches." The shuttle broke through the cloud layer, revealing a breathtaking landscape of crystalline spires and floating islands connected by bridges of light. The capital city of Asteria gleamed like a jewel set amid azure waters. "It's beautiful," Dominic whispered. "It is home," Nira replied simply, then straightened her posture as their communications array activated. "Unidentified vessel you have. Entered Thalaxian sovereign airspace. Identify immediately." Nira leaned forward. "This is First Sovereign Nira of House Thalaxian, rightful ruler of the Astral Dominion, returning with her chosen consort. Transmitting royal authentication codes now." A long pause followed. "Authentication confirmed. Sovereign Nira, welcome home. The royal court awaits your arrival and explanation." The shuttle was escorted to a crystalline landing platform extending from the tallest spire. As they disembarked, Dominic found himself surrounded by a dozen guards with staffs that hummed with energy. Their slender forms resembled Nira's, but their skin tones ranged from deep blue to pale lavender. "Breathe normally," Nira murmured. "The atmosphere is safe for you." Dominic removed his breather mask, inhaling cautiously. The air tasted like mint and ozone. A tall, imposing Thalaxian in ornate armor stepped forward, his crown more elaborate than the others, with pulsing red crystals. "Cousin," Nira addressed him coolly, "I see you wasted no time assuming my duties. During my absence, we feared you dead, Sovereign." His gaze shifted to Dominic, lip curling in disdain. "Instead, you return with this creature. Rumors of your Thalzamar have reached us. Surely you cannot expect the court to recognize a bond with a lesser species." Dominic felt Nira's flash of anger through their connection. "The ancient laws make no distinction of species, Baron Zelvarax," she replied. "My consort saved my life. The bond was formed in blood and gratitude. It is valid." The Baron stepped closer to Dominic, examining him like an insect. "Perhaps. But is he worthy to stand beside our sovereign? That remains to be proven." Dominic met his gaze steadily. "I didn't ask for this position, but I won't be intimidated by you or anyone else in your court." The air between them crackled, with tension until Nira placed a hand on Dominic's arm. "My consort will prove his worth," she declared. "As tradition demands." Zelvarax smiled coldly. "Yes, the trials of union, most fitting." He turned to the guards. "Escort our sovereign and her companion to the palace. The court assembles at dusk." As they followed their escort, Dominic whispered, "You didn't mention any trials." Nira's fingers entwined with his, her touch cool against his skin. "Because they are typically ceremonial. But I fear for you, my consort. In Zelvarax's hands, the trials will be anything but." The grand chamber of Asteria Palace soared above them, its vaulted ceiling a living map of the Thalaxian stellar territories. Dominic stood before the Sovereign Council, 7 elder Thalaxians whose crystalline crowns shimmered with the wisdom of centuries. Beside him, Nira sat upon the astral throne, her expression carefully neutral despite the anxiety Dominic could feel pulsing through their strengthening bond. "The trials of union are ancient and sacred," intoned High Elder Vinthalis, her voice resonating through the chamber. "Since the dawn of our civilization, those who would join with the royal bloodline must prove their worthiness in 3 challenges: mind, body, and spirit." Baron Zelvarax stood to the side, a satisfied smirk playing at his lips. "Traditionally, these trials are symbolic, a formality for already vetted noble matches. But given the unprecedented nature of this claim, the Council has approved a return to the original trials. Murmurs rippled through the assembled court. Dominic caught fragments of conversation. Human cannot possibly survive. Mockery of our traditions. Diplomatic incident with Earth. I accept the trials, Dominic declared before Nira could intervene. The bite mark on his neck warmed, seeming to pulse with approval. High Elder Vinthalis nodded solemnly. The trial of mind begins at dawn. Prepare yourself, Earthborn. That night in Nira's private chambers, servants prepared Dominic for the coming challenges. They applied strange, luminescent oils to his skin and presented him with ceremonial garments that adjusted to his human physiology. The trial of mind is not what you might expect, Nira explained, dismissing the servants with a gesture. It's not a test of intelligence, but of mental fortitude. You will face the Thalmera, the memory crystal. Dominic paused in donning the ceremonial vest. What does it do? It draws forth your deepest memories, fears, and desires, projecting them for all to witness. Her silvery eyes met his. Most candidates train for years to control what the crystal reveals. And I have until dawn, Dominic said wryly. Zelvarex has stacked the deck. Nira approached, placing her palm against his cheek. Yes, but he underestimates humans. Your adaptability, your resilience. These are why I chose you. You bit me in desperation on a burning ship, Dominic reminded her with a half-smile. I bit you because something in me recognized something in you, she corrected, her touch cooling the constant warmth of the bond mark. Rest now. Tomorrow will challenge us both. Dawn arrived with the haunting melody of crystalline bells. Dominic was escorted to the chamber of reflection, a circular room whose walls, floor, and ceiling were perfectly mirrored. In the center floated the Thalmera, a pulsing crystal the size of his fist. The court assembled in galleries above, with Nira seated apart, forbidden from influencing the trial. Baron Zelvarax observed from a position of prominence, anticipation evident in his posture. Approach the crystal, Earthborn, commanded Elder Vinthalis. Place your hands upon it and open your mind. Resist nothing. Dominic stepped forward, his reflection multiplied infinitely around him. As his palms touched the cool surface of the crystal, his consciousness exploded outward. Images flickered around the chamber. His childhood on the struggling lunar colony, his parents' deaths in the oxygen riot, his enlistment in the coalition forces. Each memory projected with perfect clarity, accompanied by every emotion he'd felt in those moments. The court watched, fascinated by this glimpse into human experience. Then came his military service. The horrors of the frontier wars, comrades. Lost, civilizations encountered. Dominic gritted his teeth as private grief became public spectacle. Interesting, Zelvarex commented loudly. Such primitive emotions, so uncontrolled. Yet he functions despite them. The crystal pulsed brighter, delving deeper. Dominic's most private thoughts about Nira emerged, his initial confusion at their bond, his growing admiration for her strength, and something else, something new and fragile taking root. Zelvarex sneered. He harbors genuine affection for our sovereign. How quaint. But Dominic wasn't listening anymore. The crystal had found something else. The buried trauma of his capture during the Proxima Centauri conflict, the 3 weeks of torture at enemy hands, and the mental discipline he had developed to survive it. The chamber went silent as they witnessed his methodology, the compartmentalization techniques, the mental fortress he had constructed, the iron will that had kept him sane. When the crystal finally released him, Dominic remained standing, breathing hard but composed. Elder Vinthalis descended to the chamber floor. The trial of mind is complete. The Earthborn has demonstrated remarkable mental discipline for a non-Thalaxian. The Council recognizes his passing of the first trial. Zelvarex's face darkened with displeasure. The following day brought the trial of body, a combat challenge in the floating arenas, anti-gravity platforms suspended over the azure waters of the luminous sea. Dominic, still drained from the mental trial, faced 3 Thalaxian warriors in succession. The first 2 he defeated through strategy rather than strength, using their superior reach against them and exploiting the unusual gravity of the platforms. But the third opponent was Zelverax himself, armored in ceremonial battleplate that amplified his already formidable strength. "Your presence insults our bloodline," the Baron hissed as they circled each other. "I will not allow our sovereign to be diminished by association with a primitive species." Dominic dodged a vicious strike that would have shattered bone. "Your problem isn't with humans," he countered, landing a precise blow to a joint in the Baron's armor. "It's with anyone who threatens your control over Nira." The fight was brutal and long. Dominic's coalition combat training served him well, but Zelverax had centuries of experience. When the Baron's energy staff connected with Dominic's ribs, the crack echoed across the arena. Dominic fell to one knee, tasting blood. Zelverax raised his staff for the finishing blow. "You never had a chance, human." The bond mark on Dominic's neck flared with sudden heat. In that moment, he felt Nira's presence in his mind. Not controlling, but supporting, lending him strength. With a surge of adrenaline, he rolled beneath the Baron's strike and swept his legs, sending the Thalaxian tumbling off the platform. Zelverax caught the edge, dangling precariously. Dominic stood over him, victory within grasp. "Finish it!" someone shouted from the crowd. Instead, Dominic extended his hand. "That's the difference between us, Baron. I don't need to destroy my opponents to win." After a moment of shocked silence, Zelverax took the offered hand and was pulled to safety. The crowd erupted in approval, not just for the victory but for the mercy shown. Elder Vinthalis announced, "The trial of body is complete. The Earthborn has demonstrated not only physical capability, but nobility of character. The Council recognizes his passing of the second trial." That evening, as healers tended his injuries, Nira visited him privately. "One trial remains," she said softly. "The trial of spirit is tomorrow, the most dangerous of all." Dominic winced as regenerative crystals were applied to his fractured ribs. "What should I expect?" Nira's expression grew somber. "The unknown. Each trial of spirit is unique, crafted to test the specific spiritual weaknesses of the candidate." She hesitated. "Dominic, no one would blame you for withdrawing now. You've already won respect from my people." He caught her hand, surprised by his own boldness. "I didn't come this far to give up. Whatever the trial brings, I'm ready." The warmth of the bond mark spread through his entire body as their fingers intertwined, and for the first time, he felt something unmistakable flowing from her through their connection. Not just respect or gratitude, but something deeper and more profound. Coronation of Two Worlds dawn broke with an eerie silence over Asteria. No crystalline bells, no bustling servants, only the soft glow of the twin moons fading against the lightening sky. Dominic stood alone on the Sovereign's balcony, watching the capital city awaken. His healed ribs ached dully, a reminder of yesterday's battle. "It's time," came a voice behind him. He turned to find Elder Vinthalis, her ancient eyes studying him with newfound respect. "The trial of spirit," Dominic acknowledged. "Where will it be held?" "It already surrounds you," she replied cryptically. "The final trial is not a place but a journey." Before he could question her meaning, the elder pressed a luminescent crystal against his forehead. The world dissolved into mist. Dominic found himself standing on an empty plain beneath unfamiliar stars. Before him stretched 2 paths, one leading toward a gleaming earth, recognizable despite its distance, the other toward a crystalline structure that could only be the Thalaxian royal palace. "Choose," whispered the wind. He took a step toward earth, feeling a pull of homesickness so powerful it nearly brought him to his knees. Images flashed before him, his military career restored, honors bestowed, a life of respect among his own kind. All he needed to do was renounce the bond with Nira. The mark on his neck cooled, almost painfully so. Dominic hesitated, then turned toward the Thalaxian path. Immediately, different visions appeared, centuries of life through the bond, watching all his human connections wither and die, becoming increasingly alien to his own species, yet never fully Thalaxian, always the outsider, the strange human consort, a curiosity at best. He stopped, understanding dawning. "This isn't about choosing between worlds," he said aloud. "It's about facing the consequences of either choice." The landscape shifted. Dominic now stood in a grand throne room. Nira sat upon the astral throne, but beside her stood another Thalaxian male, not Zelvarax, but someone younger, handsome by their standards. "This is what could be," said a voice like Nira's, but colder. "A proper match," a pure bloodline continued. "Alliance with the strongest house. Your bond dissolved cleanly. Your memory honored as the human who saved the sovereign." Dominic watched as this alternate Nira ruled effectively, bore heirs, strengthened the dominion. Yet through the bond mark, which remained active in this vision, he felt her private emptiness, the hollowness behind her smile. "Or this," the voice continued. The scene changed again. Now he saw himself beside Nira, both older, tensions with other species, whispers about the human consort, political complications. Yet in private moments, a genuine partnership, mutual respect, grown into something deeper. No children of their own, but a legacy of bridges built between worlds. "Neither path is perfect," Dominic said. "Neither is without sacrifice." "Then what is your choice, human?" The mists coalesced into the form of Baron Zelvarax. Convenience, tradition, or something else entirely? Dominic regarded him steadily. "You're not really here, are you? You're part of the trial." The figure inclined its head. "I represent the doubt in your heart. The voice that questions whether a human can truly belong in our world." "I don't need to belong in your world," Dominic replied with sudden clarity. "And Nira doesn't need to belong in mine. We can create something new between our worlds." The false Zelvarax faded, replaced by the misty plain once more. But now, instead of two diverging paths, Dominic saw a single road that seemed to connect Earth and Asteria, weaving between stars. Without hesitation, he stepped onto this new path. The bond mark warmed pleasantly as reality reasserted itself. Dominic found himself back in the grand chamber, surrounded by the full Thalaxian court. Elder Vinthalis stood before him, her expression solemn but her eyes bright. "The trial of spirit is complete," she announced. "Dominic Foster of Earth has faced the divided path and forged a new way. The council recognizes his passing of the third trial." A murmur of genuine approval swept through the assembly. Even the real Zelvarax seemed subdued, offering a respectful nod. Nira descended from the astral throne, her ceremonial robes flowing like liquid starlight. When she reached Dominic, she took both his hands in hers. "The trials of union are fulfilled," she addressed the court, but her eyes remained on Dominic. "Let what was claimed in desperation now be confirmed in choice. Before my people, I choose this bond." The words were clearly ritual, but the emotion behind them, flowing freely through their connection, was anything but ceremonial. "Before your people," Dominic responded, instinctively finding the right words. "I accept this bond not as duty, but as privilege." Their joined hands began to glow with the same luminescence as Dominic's bond mark. The crystalline formations of Nira's crown resonated in harmony, casting prismatic light throughout the chamber. Elder Vinthalis placed her hands atop theirs. "What the stars have witnessed cannot be undone. The union is sealed. Long reign, Sovereign Nira and consort Dominic." The court knelt in unison, even Zelvarax bowing his head in acknowledgement of tradition fulfilled. 2 weeks later, Dominic stood beside Nira as the Earth Coalition diplomatic vessel docked at the Royal Spaceport. Commander Jansen led the delegation, his expression cycling through shock, diplomatic composure, and grudging amazement as he took in Dominic's new status. "Lieutenant, or should I say royal consort, you've caused quite the stir back home," Jansen said after formal introductions were complete. The Coalition Council is adjusting to the idea of having one of our own in the Thalaxian royal family. I'm still adjusting myself, sir, Dominic admitted. Nira stepped forward. Perhaps adjustment is what both our peoples need, Commander. The Zenthian threat grows. Earth has military strength. Thalaxia has technological advancement. Together, we might actually stand a chance. Jansen finished, studying the pair with new understanding. That night, as celebrations of the new alliance illuminated Asteria, Dominic and Nira stood alone on the Sovereign's balcony. Below them, humans and Thalaxians mingled cautiously but with growing warmth. When you bit me on that burning ship, Dominic said quietly, did you ever imagine this? Nira's fingers traced the bond mark on his neck, now an intricate pattern of silver that matched the natural markings of her own skin. I imagined survival. You have given us both much more. A new path, he murmured, echoing his trial vision. Yes. She turned to face him fully. The Council has recognized you not just as consort, but as co-ruler. The first human to sit upon the astral throne. Dominic looked out at the two species beginning to find common ground below. I'm not sure I'm ready for that responsibility. That, Nira said with a smile that still took his breath away, is precisely why you are ready. As the twin moons rose, above Asteria, their light caught the crystalline spires of the palace, refracting into patterns that seemed to map new constellations, not just of stars, but of possibilities between worlds. The bond between them hummed with promise, no longer just a mark of desperation but a bridge to an unexpected future. In rescuing Nira, Dominic had found not just a queen, but a purpose greater than either of them could have imagined alone. And, in claiming Dominic, Nira had gained not just protection, but a partner who challenged her world to grow beyond its boundaries. What had begun with a bite in the chaos of a dying ship had become something neither species could have predicted. The first chapter of a story that would reshape the stars themselves.